With our detailed background completed, let's begin adding in our additional layers, which will add more character to our scene. In order to complete this scene, we still need to add details to the window and trim layers, before we add in our main characters from the Boo Crew decoration. Let's begin by opening the Fusion page for the window trim layer. Since this scene is an interior shot of a home, let's add a video in of the night sky to the windows as a start. Just like we've been doing, add a merge to the limb, bring in your media asset, and add a transform node. Because this video runs longer, and has more frames to it than the scene I've created, I don't have to check the loop box if I don't want to. I can just let this be. If you feel better about doing it, or want to get yourself into the habit of checking that box, you could check the loop box. It won't hurt anything if you do. Move the video into a position so it's visible in all the windows. You might notice that this has a purple tint to it. Well, I make mistakes too. A lot of them. And this is a good example to demonstrate that I'm not perfect either. Way back when I put together the template series, I failed to bring the blend value for this tree limb back up to 1. This is something I will need to go back and fix in my template if I don't want to have to bring this back up to 1 for every scene I work on. Now that the night sky is visible, let's add a texture to the window frame's tree limb to give it some character. You can find texture files all over the internet with a simple Google search. Here I have one that I downloaded and modified the colors of already using a workbench. Just plug in and move into the proper position. With those in place, you could choose to add a drop shadow to add some depth. Since we would want the drop shadow to apply to everything in the Fusion tree, we can actually add this toward the top of the trunk, instead of adding it to the individual limbs. This will add some shadow back to the edges of the window frame, which would become illuminated by the projector if we chose to ignore this. It's up to you if you want to add this level of detail. Now let's move on to our house trim and door layer. Recall that we added a door to the background layer, so we won't need that tree limb for this. If we were to add an animation where the door opened, then we would put it here and work with it. But the intent is just leave it closed as a decoration. So, let's just turn off that limb completely. Let's also remove the door trim since we will not be using it. Once we have a fully put together template that we can save and reuse, we can always take something away from it if we don't need it. Simply select the polygon mask for that piece of trim and delete it. Now we just need to add the texture file and modify its placement. We could create a vine for this and attach to each tree limb. Or we can simply copy and paste the media and transform nodes, and paste them for each tree limb. Neither approach is wrong. Just do whichever you prefer. Now we have our additional layers filled in, and we are just about done with this scene. All that's left is to add our main characters for this scene, and fill in a few more details. We will be covering that in our next video, so be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on that or any other future tutorials on how we can build projection shows using Davinci Resolve.